You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a charm, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, light some bottles, impress them girls. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast and Who Dat. And this evening we have some main course for you, and I'm talking about the evening game. The Saints are actually having a game at 3:05 Central Time, 4:05 Eastern Time, and that's against the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Saints, at least you'll get to Saints fans. You'll at least, if nothing else, with Sunday coming up, you got to enjoy the Thursday night game last night against the Minnesota Vikings and the LA Chargers, getting to see, two of your most hated rivals in the Los Angeles Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings. Got to see the Minnesota Vikings get screwed over by a no-call face mask. And man, I mean, all I really have to say to Minnesota Viking fans is get over it. Get over it. You had chances to win, so just get over it. Just stop, get over it, quit crying. It's really easy to say when it's not happening to your team. But anyway, let's move on from that and actually go on and get into this Chargers game a little bit and get into this injury report. So can I get a menu? And this is arguably one of the Saints' better injury reports all year. I think like the best one that they had was the one before the game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and then Eric McCoy, and then just an apocalypse of injuries came raining down on them in that game, and then every game leading up to this Chargers game. But this may be the best one where they're healthy, but I mean they still have a lot of players on their injury report. And it looked kind of deceiving at first, like as if you would think, oh, well, maybe the Saints are healthier than the Chargers. But I don't think that's really the case, because it seemed like they just had a lot of players that were just resting until Friday, and then they all limited practice and are questionable. But I imagine that they're all going to play. But let's get into that. Let's get into that. First person on the Saints injury report is quarterback Derek Carr. Still dealing with that oblique injury and didn't practice all week, but is still kind of listed as doubtful. So he still got it's kind of like last week, has a 25% chance of playing, but the odds are that Spencer Rattler is still going to be your starter Sunday against the Chargers. But I think he's started doing some throwing sessions, and he's around. He's at the games, and he's around practice. So I guess that's a positive sign, depending on if you want Carr to come back or not. But just for him getting healthy, that's positive. No matter really your feeling about Derek Carr or not, that he's feeling better, that's good. And then next you have a guard Nick Salvaderi dealing with a shoulder injury. Didn't practice all week and is out. So I mean, with Nick Salvaderi, with how his play on the field and just being an injury-prone player, I mean, that shouldn't be any big surprise. But now here we're getting on to players that are finally coming back from injuries. It feels just kind of too little, too late, and kind of like, well, why are they getting healthy now? Like, what's the point now? That's really kind of what it feels like. I mean, the only positive out of this is if they can win and then win against Carolina and maybe try to get back to at least 4-5 or 5-5 would be kind of nice. And if the Falcons and the Bucks can go on a bit of a losing streak, I mean, that's the only it's just like I was saying a couple days ago, that it's kind of annoying, honestly. It seems like the Saints since 2021, the last season of Sean Payton, where they haven't made the playoffs in 4 years. So one, Yeah, so one, yeah, one, two, and I guess the past 3 years, and then looks like they're going on a fourth year. It's just annoying to be scratching and clawing at the very end, and then have your heart broken because they don't have a tiebreaker against all these other teams that are ahead of them for that seventh wild card spot. But yeah, it seems like the Saints are getting healthy now and kind of like their opponents, and the schedule is getting a little easier, and their opponents are seeming a little like they're just now getting beat up, while the Saints uh, kind of got a lot of their injuries came at the first 3, 4 games of the season, and now they're all getting healthy. But like I said, it just feels kind of a little too late. But I'm sure if the Saints go on a 2, 3 game winning streak, all the Hoodats will be excited and 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 see that there's maybe possible chance of playoffs. But yeah, it's just I'm just sick of these like almost playoff seasons. They're really annoying. But anyways, so then we have guard Cesar Ruiz was dealing with the knee injury. Said had a hard time kind of explaining exactly what he was dealing with, but I guess he had to have it drained, and I guess it's finally started feeling better. But he was limited in practice on Wednesday, and then was full Thursday and Friday, and has no game time status. So I mean, it looks like you're going to get some of your offensive line starters back. Probably everyone besides possibly your best offensive line in Eric McCoy, but that may be a couple more weeks down the road. And then you have a center guard, Lucas Patrick, who's been dealing with a chest injury for the last 2, 3 weeks, but he was limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and then was full on Friday. I think he was actually active for the game against the Broncos, but he was just kind of like an emergency backup offensive lineman. So I would expect him to start. I'd be interested to see if Connor McGovern gets the start again at center, or if they have Lucas Patrick at center, or if they move him back over to left guard where he started the season out at and looked decent, respectable compared to who they've had recently on the interior. So you're getting four fifths of your starting offensive line back, besides, like we said, just maybe the best offensive lineman and the quarterback of your offensive line in Eric McCoy. But I mean, you can't really say that the offensive line is decimated, and that's why they're going to lose this game now, because they're relatively, compared to the majority of the season, they're relatively healthy. And then you have a linebacker, Pete Warner, dealing with a hamstring the last couple games. Was limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, and was full on Friday. No game status. So that'll be good to have maybe a defender, uh, kind of your second quarterback of the defense. To Demario Davis, and hopefully you're getting back a defensive player that can actually tackle. Would be nice and help the Saints in the run game. That would be nice. That's just like watching a horror movie. It's almost Halloween. It's like watching a horror movie, watching the Saints players miss tackles and not being able to stop the run and giving up huge gains after the catch. So that's just a welcome back, definitely, for Pete Warner. Hopefully he has a big game. And then we have a center, Connor McGovern, back. Was limited Wednesday, but then was full Thursday and Friday. And I would just guess that he's probably going to be their center. And then they'll move Lucas Patrick back to where he started at the beginning of the season as their left guard. And then wide receiver Chris Olave, concussion, was limited Wednesday and then full Thursday and Friday, and no game status for him either. So I'm really interested and concerned, kind of, about what he'll be wearing on his head. It's crazy to think we're so concerned about what players are wearing on their head now, but be very interesting. And I wonder if it's just a pride thing if he doesn't have a guardian cap or not. But after having he's had one in 4 of the last 5 seasons, all 3 seasons in the NFL, he's had one, and then a couple of years ago at Ohio State, he had one. But please, Chris Olave, wear a guardian cap. Wear 3 or 4 of them. I know they look kind of silly, make you make you look like you already got a bigger head than you already do with wearing the helmet. And they're not shiny. They're fabric uh, sheen on them. But man, I just can't uh, go through Chris Olave and just a player I like and a very important player to the Saints. Seeing him have a fourth concussion, and I guess that hasn't been the issue the last 2 years where he's had multiple in a season, but that would just be awful. Chris Olave having multiple concussions, a second concussion in the season, and almost like in back-to-back games that he's played in. That'd be to the point where you're almost gonna have to, I would say, almost have to shut him down, kind of like what people want with Tua Tagovailoa. They wanted him to like retire. I don't know if we're there yet, but it's partly just because his haven't looked quite as bad, but just no concussion is a good concussion. So hopefully, please, Chris Olave, do everything you can to protect yourself, and hopefully there's no dirty Charger players like there were in the game against the Buccaneers, ear holing him on a standard just catch and run type of play. And then we got a defensive tackle, Colin Saunders, had the sneaky back injury that popped up at the last minute and last Wednesday's uh, injury report before the game against the Broncos. So we're getting him back. He was limited Wednesday and Thursday, and then was full on Friday and no game status. And hopefully he can help on defense and in the run game. That would be very helpful as well. They need as much help as they can. If they can't stop a team for rushing for 200 yards, then they really have no chance of winning probably any more games this season. And then they're getting back like the key to their offense, the spark plug that pretty much uh, had them start the season with almost scoring 100 points in the first two games of the year, and they're getting Taysom Hill back, who also looked like he was about to just kill the Atlanta Falcons by himself in what was that, week 4, where it looked like he was coming back from a bruised heart, and then he, after scoring, having like 45 yards rushing and like 2 touchdowns against them, and having the Saints up by 10 on the Falcons. Then he broke some ribs, got dogpiled and broke his ribs on a blocking play. So we're getting Taysom Hill back. So that should be a big boost, not just to the offense, but just to the life of the entire team. You have Taysom Hill out there running a play, whatever you want to call it, a trick play where he's throwing it as a quarterback, or if he's blocking, or if he's having a big run and running over defenders. That just lights up the team and just as a spark to the team. And that's really the only positive that I can see from and having the Saints get a chance of actually maybe winning this game, is that maybe Taysom Hill brings some life and some energy to this team that they haven't had since the loss to the Falcons. Since that Young Ho Koo game winner, 58-yard winner that we just before they even set up to kick it, we knew was going in. They've just been no energy, just like dead. But like the only energy I've seen is I guess they cut it close off of a Rashid Shaheed bomb against the Chiefs, and then they had the big quarter in the second quarter where they scored 27 points against the Bucs. But besides that, they've just been lifeless since the Falcons game. And then we have a running back, Alvin Kamara, who's has a new contract, new deal, and he clarified right after signing it that his hand was broken. But we already knew that. We already knew that he was dealing with a hip injury, was dealing with a rib injury, and had a hand injury, but they weren't specific as if it was just a sprain or if it was a bruise or if it was broken. But he came out straight up and was like, "It's broken." But little bit different, a little bit different in the NFL with NFL players and linebackers like Willie Gay Jr. that literally had to have like a stent put in his hand, where they don't necessarily have to miss a game or only have to miss one. We just right after the New Orleans Pelicans had an exciting win and a good start to the season, and their home opener against the Chicago Bulls. It comes out like just a couple hours later, while I'm trying to enjoy the Clippers Sun game, that he broke his hand, and that's looking as if that's going to be a 4 to 6 week recovery, because they're just their hands are like their best weapon, one of the most used parts of their body when playing. I mean, you have to have a good hand, but it's the left hand, so maybe that will shorten things up a little bit. But anyways, back the onto the Saints injury report here. So Alvin Kamara, he was limited all week in no game status, so I'm expecting him to play. And then wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr. Hip, he was limited Wednesday, and then I guess something flared up on Thursday and Friday and didn't practice either of those days and is listed as out. And it's not funny, but it's just comical of like this bad joke that the Saints are dealing with, where he could have easily been my MVP last week, post game MVP, because he had what 6 catches for 56 yards, a touchdown, and a long of 17. So other than Kendra Miller, who had like 6 catches or 6 runs for 36 yards with an average of like 6 yards a carry, that was maybe your best offensive player last week. And of course, he's hurt. He's out of the game against the Chargers. So that's very on brand with this season. But I wouldn't say. I mean, getting Chris Olave back, I'll take that. I'll take that loss over Chris Olave or Cedric Wilson. I'll take Chris Olave. And then tight end Juwan Johnson shoulder was limited all week, no game status. And then cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, who pulled up kind of lame. I think he wanted to stop getting embarrassed by Sean Payton, kind of like how he pulled up lame in the game uh, against the against the Carolina Panthers. He doesn't like to get embarrassed. He has to be at 100% to play, and if he feels even slightly nicked up in the game, he's gonna pull himself. He's gonna pull himself out of the game. But Marshawn Lattimore, easily their best corner now. I mean, there was maybe a slight argument, I guess, when before Paulson Adebo broke his femur in half, that maybe he wasn't, or maybe some of the younger guys, Alante Taylor, some of those guys were maybe the best corner. But easily when he's motivated and healthy and wanting to play, Marshawn Lattimore is definitely the best corner this year. It's hardly seen any quarterback really target him, or very many completions completed on Marshawn Lattimore all year. It'd be nice for him to add some turnovers, show a little bit of his ball hawking status would be kind of nice in this game. That would be much needed. But yeah, so Marshawn Lattimore, he was full all week with a hamstring and has no game status. So at least you're going to have your number one cornerback and your number one wide receiver back. And then quarterback Spencer Rattler, who went out of the game late in the game against the Broncos with a hip pointer. So he's dealing with a hip, but he still should be the starter. Was full all week and has no game status. So I mean, it's sad to say, like, this is the healthiest the Saints have been, and how the healthiest and healthiest their injury report, and the best injury report they've had since the game before the Philadelphia Eagles. But hopefully that can stay like that, and hopefully the injury bug and the bug bite, the itch from it has healed up, and hopefully we don't really see any too many more. And the injury report's a little deceiving because there's still players on there that are on IR. I mean, you got Tano Passanio, Ryan Ramczyk, Rashid Shaheed, Eric McCoy. Those guys are all on IR. So it makes it not having those guys listed here too kind of makes it a little deceiving, makes it look a little bit better than it actually is. Now then, on to the Chargers, who I was saying like their injury report was looking like worse than the Saints on Wednesday and Tuesday, because they had quite a few players, a couple starters sprinkled in here and there that were DMPs all the way up until Friday. But then they're all just any Saints opponent, they're just magically healthy and ready to go when it comes game time. So then almost all of them were limited practice on Friday. But let's get into that. So first one is wide receiver Darius Davis, dealing with a hamstring. He didn't practice all week, and he's the only one listed as doubtful on here. And I would guess that he's probably the only one on their injury report that's not gonna try to give it a go. And I guess I don't know Justin Herbert's really found his number one wide receiver yet, or really any of his favorite targets? Because I mean, they got rid of all of those in the offseason with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So I'm not sure really how missing Darius Davis is going to affect them, but I would say he's one of their top three wide receivers. But it doesn't look like out of the majority of their roster, majority of them are healthy, but he's about one of the only ones that's not. And then you have a tight end, Will Dissly, shoulder, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but was limited Friday and was listed as questionable. And then tight end Hayden Hurst, groin, didn't practice Wednesday, was limited Thursday and Friday and listed as questionable. And those right there where the Saints have been getting, they were lucky the first 2 weeks against the Panthers and the Cowboys where they didn't have their starting tight ends. Well, it looks like the Chargers may be getting back both, or at least both of them will be playing in this game. And we know how the Saints have lost some games this year and have been eaten alive by some tight ends this year. So that I don't think Justin Herbert is going to have to be worrying too much about having a number one wide receiver if he has both of his tight ends healthy, and Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst. And then wide receiver Lad McConkey, hip, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but was limited Friday, listed as questionable. And then linebacker Denzel Perryman, toe, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday and was limited Friday, is listed as questionable. And Quentin Johnson, ankle, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but was limited Friday and is listed as questionable. And then outside linebacker Joey Bosa, hip, was limited all week and is listed as questionable. And then wide receiver DJ Chark, groin, was limited all week and is listed as questionable. And then cornerback Christian Fulton, hamstring, was limited Wednesday and Thursday and then was full on Friday, no game status. And then outside linebacker Khalil Mack, rest. He was limited Wednesday and then was full Thursday and Friday and then no game time status. And cornerback Jashir Taylor, fibula, which it's not broken. That's the first thing I saw when I saw that. He must have a bruised fibula, I guess, because he was limited Wednesday and Thursday and then was full on Friday and no game status. And just kind of talking a little bit about this game and that the Saints are kind of getting their offensive line back. Those are some big names in Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Let's hope that because the Saints are getting some of their the majority of their starters back from the beginning of the year, week 1, week 2, hopefully they're able to at least slow Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack down. And I think something that kind of will help a little bit is that these are both edge rushers. The Saints, a good portion of the Saints struggles with the pass rush and blitzes this year has been all the stuff that comes up the middle and up on the interior. Even though I know they blitz and have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, they blitz them and have them line up in the middle, or they're off ball and come off the blitz up the middle. Hopefully, majority of their snaps will come on the outside, and hopefully Trevor Penning and Fuaga, who've both been great this year, the only two good and healthy offensive linemen that they've had for the majority of the year. Hopefully, they're able to control them a little bit, because seeing that both Khalil Mack and surprising for Joey Bosa, who's kind of an injury-prone player, and seeing that they're probably both going to play gives me a little bit of concern, especially with Spencer Rattler having been sacked 6 times last week. So hopefully they can do a little bit better of a job, and hopefully now that this is Spencer Rattler's third start he's going to have, and he had 10 days to prepare. Hopefully he can avoid just taking these sacks and just basically just running into them would be kind of nice. All right, so now then on to MVPs, hot takes, and picks and scores. So for MVP for the last couple of weeks, I've just been trying to pick a player that's meaningless to the team, that hasn't had really big impact even leading up to the game, and has been relatively healthy for the season. Just because I don't want to, I feel as if I've cursed a lot of these players early in the season because I pick them and then we've stated it 100 times now. They end up having the worst game of the season or they get hurt. But that trend is getting old and tiresome. And hey, the Saints are kind of healthy now, so I kind of want to pick a player that I was glad to see get some play last week, and he was my post offensive MVP post game MVP offensive MVP last week anyway. So maybe he can double up on that, and I hope just picking him for this game. I hope he just doesn't get hurt, which is very likely because that's basically the majority of his career with the Saints and NFL career. He has been hurt, and he's just coming back from IR. But I thought he looked good against the. He was like about one of the only sparks in the game against the Broncos. So for my MVP pre-game offensive MVP, I'm picking Kendra Miller in this game. I just want him to have, if he has like a comparable game to what he had in the last game of the season against the Falcons last year, where he had close to 100 yards from scrimmage, that would be really exciting to see. And even with the signing of Alvin Kamara, it would show a future lead back. Maybe he can take the lead if he can stay healthy, and then we just use Alvin Kamara more as a scat back and more of a receiver then, and hopefully that takes some of the load off of Alvin Kamara and keeps him healthy, even though he's had 3, 4 different types of injuries this year. So that's my pre-game offensive MVP, Kendra Miller. And now my hot take, which this hot take basically is going to have to hit if we're expecting to win at all in this game, and that's just to be respectable on defense at all. And so I'm predicting for a hot take, which I don't even know how hot it is because it would be ridiculous if they go 3 games in a row and allow 200 yards rushing in a game, and you're not expecting to win any more games if they do that. So my hot take is they don't allow 200 yards rushing in this game, 200 plus, because it hasn't just been right at 199 or right at 200. It's been plus 200 plus. So let's try not to do that. Hopefully with Colin Saunders and hopefully with a healthy Pete Warner, they can at least do that. And maybe that they're a little rested and have a little bit of a spark getting Taysom Hill kind of the life, and this is the key to almost the entire team, which is ridiculous saying when you're saying that about a 34-year-old player that's not your quarterback. But don't allow 200 plus rushing yards would be nice. And then on to the picks and scores. Even though I'm trying to talk positive with my MVP and hopefully the defense improves, doesn't allow as many rushing yards as they had the last 3 weeks. I still, until I see that the defense has some energy and some life and is tackling and not missing on defensive plays. It seems like they're not missing 3 or 4 tackles on like every play. I can't pick the Saints to win this game. And the Chargers, if nothing else, they may not have a lot of weapons, J.K. Dobbins, I guess he's a bigger name than kind of the no-name players that were with the Bucks because Rashid White didn't play, and then just no-name player for the Broncos, and then kind of like a washed Kareem Hunt with the Chiefs. They got J.K. Dobbins, but after that, I guess you got the skills position. You have Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst, who are both coming back from injury. But after that, there's not a whole lot of weapons. But this could be one of the best quarterbacks besides maybe Patrick Mahomes that the Saints defense will have faced all year. So I just can't pick the Saints to win this game. Not until I see that energy that Dennis Allen can get this defense right and looking like it has looked the past 4 or 5 years. But until then, I can't pick them. So I'm picking the Chargers to win. And because they're getting Pete Warner back and Colin Saunders, and they're having a 10 days of rest, I'm going to take 3 points off of what they scored last week. So instead of scoring 33 points, the Saints will keep them from scoring at least and getting in the red zone and in field goal range at least one more time in this game. So they're only going to allow 30 points. I know that's big, only allowing 30 points. And then the same thing on the offensive side. So the Saints are getting they're getting Chris Olave and they're getting Taysom Hill back. So I think that's going to add a spark to their offense. So they're going to get one more touchdown than they did last week. So not 10 points, 17 points. So I'm picking the Chargers to win this game 30-17. And I just have like mixed feelings about this game. Like seeing that the Saints are like I think they're sixth or fifth in the draft position right now. It's almost hard for me to want them to go on any kind of run and just uh, miss the playoffs by the skin of their teeth for the fourth straight year. So I'm just going to watch this game, and I guess I really don't care, honestly, if they win or lose. I guess it'll be kind of exciting if the Buccaneers beat the Falcons uh, in the early game because the Falcons right now are slotted as the best NFC South team. So seeing them lose, and then if the Saints could win this game, and then they should be able to beat a Bryce Young leading the Panthers the next week, and then before you know it, the Saints are would be 4-5. But I just don't know if I want that or I want that top five pick. But anyways, it should be interesting, and if nothing else, hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully the Saints can get 100-yard rusher for the first time in what 3 weeks, or on a 100-yard wide receiver. I don't know if Olave or Rashid Shaheed had 100 yards receiving all year. I think they got close. We're like 80, 90 yards, and just it'd be nice to see Chris Olave look fully healthy and back from the concussion. If he got 100 yards and maybe Kendra Miller somehow went off and got 100 yards, at least that would be entertaining. But I guess their defense could still uh, crap all over themselves. So, but just be a respectable product on the field come Sunday evening would be kind of nice. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?